Welcome to Built to Finish. I'm your host, Steven Pivnik. Join me each week as we explore the journeys of audacious goal setters. This includes experienced founders, CEOs, and entrepreneurs sharing pivotal moments that propel their success. We'll also be talking with endurance athletes who push the limits of physical and mental ability. This show is brought to you by Acresis, offering tailored, high-impact advisory services to help founders get to their finish line with a strategic acquisition or majority investor recapitalization. Let's get started. Welcome back to another episode of the Built to Finish podcast. Today's guest is a speaker, storyteller, and the host of How We Heal, a podcast exploring trauma, resilience, and what it takes to heal. He blends personal experience with conversations to make healing feel practical, human, and accessible. After a career as a serial entrepreneur, his own journey through trauma reshaped the work he does today. I'm really excited to have him here. Ryan Pink Langford, welcome to the show.
Hey, Steven. Thanks for having me. It's good to see you again.
It's great to see you. So just to let people listening and watching know, you and I met at a public speaking course called Heroic Public Speaking.
Yeah.
And I can't wait to hear how your speaking career has progressed since all of that wonderful training that we've received.
Yeah. Well, I mean, certainly it was incredible, world-class training at Heroic. Like I'm so grateful for the work that we did there. And actually, I gave a shorter version of a speech at your book launch, whatever that was, close to 2 years ago now.
I think that's going on 3 years. It's either a 2-year anniversary or 3-year, maybe 2-year. I don't even, it was such a long time ago.
So I'm actually in the middle of rewriting that speech, and I think it's the best I've ever done before. I mean, I'm so excited about it. It's called Make Room for a Bigger Yes. Okay. It's about the importance of prioritizing, but like I really get into just all of the ways, especially in a world where we spend a lot of time in technology, that our yeses are being siphoned away from us. The resources of our time, our energy, our money, our focus and our attention are being taken away from us little tiny yeses at a time. And so much that we don't even notice it. And so like, how do we reclaim that? So that's what I'm working on right now.
Without too much of a spoiler, can you give us a little bit of a hint on some of the guidance you provide there?
Sure. So I've got, like it's in the middle of writing this right now. So I'll see if I can recall it from memory. But basically there's 3 Ds that I look at for how we want to create our biggest yeses. So number 1, we need to define it. If we don't understand, if we haven't taken the time to understand what are the biggest yeses for us. And by biggest yeses, I mean the things that give our life purpose and meaning. Like that's the biggest thing. That's what often falls to the wayside because we're focused on reels and emails and text messages and all of the millions of social media distractions we have. So we start by defining it. What is the greatest thing? The next thing is we design it. So it's like, how do we integrate that into our life so that when those smaller yeses come up, they become annoying to us instead of tempting to us. When they come up and try to take the place of the bigger things, we feel so strongly about the bigger things that we don't want to do these smaller distractions. And then the third thing is defended. So it's define, design, and defend. And one of the things that, if you remember from the speech that I gave at your book launch, is that I went on a journey of being a yes addict. I used to be a yes addict. I would do anything to get a yes. I would do anything to get a question from you that I could say yes to because I thought I could earn your friendship, your love, your attention, your focus. It's, these things come from childhood usually. And so I was so accustomed to saying yes to any request that came my way, I didn't realize. Well, in the speech, I say that yes is the most highest impact word, is 3 little letters expressed as a single syllable. I'm standing as the doorway into everything that we could ever hope for or imagine. But I came to a realization that yes is not the most powerful word in the English language. No is the most powerful word in the English language.
Totally agree.
Right. And so that stands as the defender of everything we could ever hope for or imagine. And so when we look at defending our biggest yeses, it's like, what are the things that we can say no to? And I'm not just talking about requests from a friend or, there's certain things that are just obligations we might not want to do, but like they're good for the community. They're good for those around us. It's also like looking at our lives, our calendars, our budget, where we're spending our money and saying, where am I allocating all these tiny little yeses that are taking away my resources and taking away my ability to respond better in the future? So I give this one example of like, a few months ago, I was looking at my credit card statements, and I should probably do that more often, to be honest with you.
That's probably the most actionable advice of the last 2 months worth of podcasts. Look at your credit card statements more often, people.
Yeah, yeah. I looked at my credit card statement, Steven, and I was like, okay, $39 of software subscription for this. I got six different streaming services of which I only watch two and barely even those. I got some supplements that have been stockpiling in the back of my pantry like it's doomsday, preparing for doomsday. And I added up all these things, these recurring subscriptions to things, and I was spending over $1,000 a month, $12,000 a year, $120,000 over 10 years because that is a habit. And I thought to myself, what could I be doing with that would feel more useful than just giving it to all these things that not only do I not care about them, I don't even remember. So I gave all these tiny little yeses away to these things financially that I was like, I'm going to cancel all those subscriptions. I had to go digging through stuff. I didn't even remember half of them, you know?
I just learned about something called Amazon subscriptions. So I had no idea this existed. But obviously, over time, when I signed up for various channels, I
Mm.
thought I was subscribing directly with them, but I'm subscribing through Amazon. So it shows up on your credit card bill, I think, I'm not 100% sure on this, as an Amazon charge, which we all have myriad of. So there's an area within your Amazon profile called subscriptions. And it was eye-opening to me. I had a dozen there that I never remembered subscribing to. And it totaled up to like over $100 a month that I was paying for these things. So in that one little area, I was able to save $100 a month. So
Yeah.
I'm with you 100%.
Well, and so the credit card stuff is like one thing. It's okay. Those are financial resources. Like it's a thing. We should care about it. But the real takeaway from that for me was like I realized what are all of the other areas in my life that I'm saying all of these little yeses that I've said yes to like a month ago, a year ago, years ago, and they've kind of become default for me. They become default behavior. And they're like slowly stealing away my life as I progress. And can I do an audit of those things? I call it a yes audit. Can I do a yes audit? All the things I'm saying yes to and say, this should no longer be a yes. It doesn't serve an important function and it doesn't, as Marie Kondo says, it doesn't spark joy. And if it doesn't fit that criteria, I get rid of it.
I love it. I mean, I remember a while ago, I was saying yes to so many things and slowly but surely getting overwhelmed that I
Yeah.
started keeping track of the no's for the week. And
Oh,
I took so much joy in my no count.
I love that.
And then unfortunately, I dropped that habit, and I'm at a point right now where I need to pick it up. Where
Mm,
I literally just got out of a meeting where somebody said, and I wrote this down, I don't do anything unless it provides a 10x return, meaning I don't spend my time on anything without a 10x return. Now, that's very aggressive.
yeah.
I believe, but within there somewhere there's some real wisdom to your point of us. A colleague of mine likes to say people spread their time like peanut butter, just like all over the
Yeah.
place, instead of focusing on like what's really important. So between all of these sayings, I think there's some gold in there.
So my question for your colleague or your friend that said the 10x thing would just be like, I would be curious to know like does he define the 10x return? Because I think that it's easy to, or maybe he told you that. Did he?
No, it was she. She didn't
She,
exactly define it, but I think she was just trying to make an
yeah,
overarching point
yeah.
that as an entrepreneur, and she's rapidly scaling a
Mm,
really cool business right now,
okay, yeah.
and she just doesn't have time to have the peanut butter effect that I just mentioned that my other
Yeah.
colleague said. I refuse to spend my time everywhere, and I focus on the big ticket items that are going to have the biggest ROI for me and for my business, and everything else she either deletes or delegates.
Do you remember the 4 Hour Work Week? Did you ever read that?
Yes, Ferris,
Tim Ferriss. Yeah,
Tim
yeah.
Ferriss.
That book was really, I didn't
Okay.
like I didn't like, there's kind of like a culture around it that I sort of didn't love at the beginning, but at least what I perceived. I read that book back, I don't know, gotta be 10, 12, 13 years ago, something, when I was, I don't know, a few years into being an entrepreneur. I was working 80 hours a week. So the title was, I was like, I want to work more than 4 hours. Like I enjoy working, but not 80
Right.
hours. And I use his principles to go from 80 hours a week down to 4 hours a year in this particular business. And then I
Okay.
ended up starting other businesses and enjoying that. But that particular business that was taking 80 hours a week, I had one meeting every quarter for an hour, and that business continued to thrive. And it was through these steps. It was, and I just love it. So I've repeated here. This is all Tim's stuff, but you start by you do an assessment of everything that you're doing, and you say, first of all, what can I oh gosh, what's the word? Delete. What can I get rid of?
And
Um,
we'll call
he's
it
got a
delete.
specific word, I can't remember now. But anyways, what doesn't belong there that I should
Hmm.
just be getting rid of, okay? Then second of all, he looks at, okay, if I can't get rid of it, then what can I automate? Because that's the cheapest next way to do it. And if I can't automate it, then what can I delegate?
Hmm.
And then he's got another step that didn't apply to me and wouldn't apply to a lot of people. I think it's specific to his methodology around lifestyle entrepreneurship that I wasn't particularly interested in the time. But the fourth one is when I looked at the list, I said, okay, well, what can I? And I just to make it fit, I said, what can I efficienate? If I can't get rid of it, if I can't automate it, if I can't delegate it, what can I at least make more efficient in some way? And that's how I went from the 80 hours a week to 4 hours.
I think you've coined a new term,
I did.
efficienate.
Thank you. Yeah, you heard it here first. Yeah.
I know what's interesting is he mentioned automation, and his book was written way before the age of AI.
Yeah.
So with AI, there's so many things that can fall into the automation category now that people really need to dig deeper than they ever have to find out how AI can truly help. Because the deeper I dig, the more impressed I am, and the more I benefit from what's available out there.
But I am super interested in your perspective on AI. Maybe your listeners are or not, because I'm kind of like of two minds on it.
The more I look into it and the smarter I get, the more I'm impressed and at the same time get afraid of what it can do. I mean, it's just such an incredibly powerful tool. And I think I've just hit the tip of the iceberg with what I'm asking it to do. For instance, complete transparency. I asked it to create the introduction for you today.
Wow.
So instead
Yeah.
of me going to LinkedIn and to your website and
Yeah.
picking and choosing various things, it
Yeah.
gave me a 3-paragraph introduction for you.
Wow.
I'm like, that's way too long. I'm like, chop this down into 5 sentences.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then the 5 sentences is what I read off as your introduction. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
that saved me probably an hour of work. I turned an hour of work into 60 seconds.
Yeah. So
And that's just like one tiny example. And I've used it for a variety of different reasons. So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question. I think it's crazy powerful. People don't utilize it to its full potential,
yeah.
and it's only going to get smarter.
Okay.
And unlike many other people, I don't think it's going to take over the world because I think it's not going to become autonomous in our lifetime and do
Uh-uh.
things without human oversight and control.
Yeah.
Some people may call me ignorant
Yeah.
on that topic, but that's where I currently stand.
Yeah, that's not really my concern about AI, although I wouldn't be the person to listen to on whether that threat is real or not, but it's not the one I'm most concerned about. And I love AI for all of those things. For at least for automating, you can actually really just delegate to AI. You can certainly efficientate a lot of things, like you just said. Instead of taking an hour, it took you 5 minutes or whatever. But one thing I've noticed in myself as I've used AI over the last few years is that it decreases my capacity for thinking. And when I use it a lot, I find myself offloading or have found myself offloading some of my thinking to the machine and realize that there's an atrophy of imagination that I experience that I imagine. Not don't I don't actually have to imagine that I know many other people are experiencing. So I think that on one end we believe that AI is an extension of us, like we ask it to do something for us. But I think to some degree, when we offload our thinking, which is like central to our humanity, that it
Hmm.
almost becomes that we're an extension of the AI, and that's what scares me is
Oh,
that we become.
I agree. I mean, I think it's definitely reducing the need for critical thinking and critical thought. And it's the people that rely on it exclusively without practicing, that part of their brain aren't going to be as capable without it in the future.
So yeah, so how do you protect against that? Like I've started using it less just because I like exercising this thing. I like
Sure.
exercising my mind, and so I don't use it for any of my writing for anything. I use it for research basically. I'm like, okay, are there studies on this? Tell me what they are. I look to see if they're incredible, that kind of stuff. Whereas I use it for a lot of writing before. I just noticed I didn't have as much of a depth of understanding of things when I was using AI.
No, I hear you.
How
But,
do you think you offset that? Um,
I don't know. I think it's going to happen on a case by case basis, and
yeah,
individuals are If people are cognizant of the long-term effects that we just mentioned, they'll use it less and
Yeah.
they'll use it wisely versus overusing it. I mean, I'm not sure if liquor is a good analogy, but a little bit of it is nice. Too much of it dumbs you down and
Yeah.
dumbs your feelings and fear, concerns and fears, and turns you into a different person and not
Yeah.
necessarily a better person.
Yeah.
So people, I think, need to, look at AI the same way. That's gonna be my new slogan. Treat AI like liquor, cautiously.
I love that.
So back to your story. One of the things I remember you sharing, which I wanted to get more details of then, and I didn't, was you took an incredibly long hiatus and road trip with your family. Can you share again how long that was, why you left, where you went, and how that went? Hey everyone, just a quick reminder that the Built to Finish podcast is brought to you by Accresis. Accresis have helped over 30 founders generate over $1 billion in wealth via strategic acquisitions or investor recapitalizations. If you're the owner of a middle market company and want to explore what a potential exit will look like for you so that you can finally realize the value of what you've been working so hard on, please do contact Accresis via the website accresis.com or hit me up on LinkedIn for more information at Steven Pivnik. Now, back to the show.
Yeah, for sure. Well, this really ties back to that Tim Ferriss thing. I was working so many hours and I was like, I'm burning out. So whereas a lot of people like, I really want to have more adventure in my life. I was motivated at the time. I actually have a different mix of motivations now than I did then. This is back in 2012. I realized that I had hit my capacity as an entrepreneur and that I was the bottleneck for my own growth.
Mm-hmm.
I was a micromanager. I had a great team, but like I didn't want I wouldn't trust people with things I had delegated to them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I had an employee that left, and she said I had 6 office managers within 18 months, and I was like, "What's going on, man? Like, I'm really nice to them. I'm kind. I'm good to them, you know." And she quit crying, and she said, "Ryan, you are the best boss I've ever had. I just can't work for you." And I was like, tell me more because those seem to be contradictory. And what it came down to is that I micromanaged the hell out of her and she didn't, she was like, I like you. You're good to me. You're kind to me. You pay me well, but like, you don't let me do my job and I want to succeed and you make it hard for me to succeed. And so I realized that without taking drastic action, I would not improve as an entrepreneur. So I set a date and said to my wife and kids, we should leave the country because the only way that I'm not going to micromanage my employees. At that point, I had about 30 in this company.
And the country is Canada. You're living in Canada,
I
right?
was living in Canada.
Okay.
Only way I'm not going to micromanage them is if I am not present. And so I took the next 6 months to build up good systems, document them really well, hire really good people. And then I had to take the leap and actually trust them and I said, and I prepared them all. This is what I'm doing. We're going away. And I said, don't contact me. Everything will be fine. I trust you. You have everything you need. You have all the logins and the passwords and the processes. We've worked together. Best of luck to you. Don't screw it up. And
Wow. So you didn't even give them like a 911 opportunity. No,
no,
no, no emergencies.
no. Now, there is a caveat to this, which is I said, don't reach out to me for at least a month. I think I might even said 3 months. It's long ago now, I forget. But at about a month, I sent a panicked text to the director of because this was a music school at the time. I sent a panicked text and I said, okay, lay it on me. Like, what has happened? I'm sure everything has fallen apart. And I kid you not, Stephen, she said, actually, everything's going great. In fact, we have increased our students by 20% since you've been gone. In 1 month, 20% growth in 1 month. And it hurt my freaking feelings because I thought I was so important that I was critical to everything. I couldn't believe that I actually felt hurt that I wasn't necessary.
Wow.
But then I knew that I had done the right thing and I let the school continue to grow with Thrive. We ended up getting to about 70, 80 teachers at that school. And with me doing 4 hours a year. And so,
Amazing.
sorry, that didn't even answer your question. Travel the world. Yes. So
No, I mean, I love that tangent because it's so, you know what? Let's park that for a second and we'll get back to that for a second. Let's continue with the
okay.
traveling.
So yeah, that year, I'd been trying to convince my wife at the time to do some travel for a while. Like I had some adventurous kind of goals, and I thought it'd be fun. I had a teacher from Argentina, from Brazil, that I was like, oh, we got to go to Brazil. And then I had another teacher from Argentina. And so they would tell me stories about and I was like, oh, that sounds fun. We should go there. And so over that 6 months, I started saying, hey, we should go to, let's go to a few countries. Let's go stay in Argentina for a year. That was the original Brazil. Then it was Argentina. Then it was like, hey, what if we spent 3 months in 4 different countries each? Sorry, 3 months in 4 countries over the course of a year. Uh, and we'll do it on one in each continent. That'd be kind of fun, right? And then so she just took hold of it and she's like, well, maybe we should do like a few countries on each continent because we're there. So anyways, that year we ended up doing 32 countries, every continent, including Antarctica. And
Wow. With kids.
with 4 kids. Yeah, our
With
youngest was
four
10 months
kids.
old. Yeah, 10 months
I
old at
mean,
the
this is
time.
a trip of a lifetime just for two adults, but with kids just adds a whole different element to it.
Yeah, we moved on average every 3 days, and during that year, we started our most profitable business, which we ended up selling in January 2020, while we were traveling on average every 3 days. So that was kind of wild because we were like, oh, this is expensive. Maybe we should do something. And we had this great thing that was working. We had another business that we were running at the time too. So anyways, I think we ended up selling one of those during that time. Yeah, we did 32 countries, and then it didn't really stop. We actually traveled for 7 years, and we did an average of about 6 months, 6 to 8 months, maybe per year. After that, we traveled. We ended up going to 86 countries, 85, 86 countries over the course of that time. We slowed down the pace quite a bit, but over that 7 years, we went to 80, 85, 86 countries. Yeah.
That is incredible. Congratulations for pulling something like that off and successfully. Sounds like, I mean, you've got an incredible amount of memories that you personally, and then it's an experience that your kids will never forget. That's definitely going to differentiate them in their lives from others having lived all over the world.
Oh yeah, they have crazy stories. Like, hey, remember that time when we were, like in Turkey and this thing happened, or when we were in Egypt, and we got some stories that belong in movies, like crazy stuff.
Did you
So
ever
yeah,
think of writing a book about that adventure?
yeah. I mean, I love writing. I don't know if I'll ever write a book about that adventure because I am more interested in big ideas than I am about, the story of. I don't find my life that interesting. Like I know it seems interesting to somebody to have gone to those places, but I'm like, it's just my life. But I am really interested in big ideas. So that's where my writing focuses. But I'll include stories, and I do include stories of like different places that we went.
That's
Um,
amazing. So I'm just we can talk about the details of this forever, but I just have a couple of questions. So did you live in an RV and were able just to move around, or did you go from like Airbnb to Airbnb?
yeah, most of what we did was Airbnb to Airbnb. The occasional cost hostel, the occasional hotel, but mostly Airbnbs. And we did one time do, I think it's probably about 3 months of RV living. I hated it personally.
Really?
Scary. Yeah. I had like a 37, we had a 37 and a half foot trailer towed between like a 30-foot truck or something. And so it was like, it was so stressful. I always was afraid I was going to kill everybody on the road. It had the, dovetail kind of thing that it would do if you
Huh?
went too fast. And I just was like, stress is killing me. Like, I can't do this anymore. So we only did that for 3 months. But yeah, most of it was Airbnbs.
But you always considered Canada home, and eventually, when this was over, you moved back to where you're from. Is that right?
Well, kind of. We went back to Canada, but actually we moved to Florida, like, I don't know, a few years ago. And so like Florida for my children is home. Like they because they spent most of their life traveling the world. I mean, a couple of my kids weren't even born when we started traveling. And so for them, Florida is the closest thing to home that they've ever had because they've
So not only did you travel the world, you had kids while traveling the world.
yeah, two. Three. Sorry, two. Yes.
Amazing. I don't. Last question on the travel.
Yeah.
wh- if you had, other than Florida, if you had to pick like one or two places that would be like a close second or third to be home long term, where would
Oh.
they be?
I mean, as a Canadian, speaking to you, Stephen, as an American, I just love your country. Like it is so geographically beautiful. I mean, the people are great. There's a lot of wonderful things here. I love the entrepreneurial spirit that Americans have. That kind of Americans are the ones that said, "You're not taxing us without representation." And I'm sorry to my Canadian folks, but we were kind of like, "Yeah, that sounds all right." you know, so I like that Americans have a bit of spitfire in y'all. So geographically, though, I love it. I love Arizona. I love Utah. I love Colorado. Put me in the mountains anywhere, and I'm pretty happy. In fact, most of the places probably any place in the world I would live would probably be intentionally around mountains, which obviously I'm in Florida now, so no mountains here. But I mean, I'd live in Switzerland gladly. Where else? Europe is so familiar that I love Spain. I love the culture there. I love Italy. I love France. Maybe my favorite country in the world is Japan. I love Japan.
Well,
Um,
I haven't heard anybody come back from a trip to Japan saying that wasn't good. Japan is an
and
incredible place, right?
well, they're so unique because they were isolated for all of those hundreds of years. And so the
Sure.
culture became like it was self-referential. Like all they
Right.
had was related to what they had. And so
It was the furthest thing from a melting pot possible.
exactly. And so you get this really unique view and like if you have no external influence into a culture, like what has become. And so the Japanese people are just the most delightful, unique, special people. Like I just really enjoy them as humans. And so yeah, I love being there. But they have great food too and
Yep, for sure.
all
I'm
that.
I'm definitely gonna ask my wife to listen to this episode because I want to plant the seed because I want
Yeah.
to. I can't go away for 6 or 7 years, but we've been moving around a little bit. 5 years at the last place, and we're in a new place now. But I definitely want to do a little bit of country hopping in the future.
Talk about it, man. I mean, when you're ready to do that, I've got recommendations for days. Just know your interest.
Fantastic. We
We'll
definitely
figure it
will.
out.
We definitely will.
Yeah.
So let's talk about business for a little bit, if you don't mind.
Mhm. Yeah, sure.
Since we talked to a lot of entrepreneurs on the show about
Mm,
growing, scaling, and later selling their business, and
yeah.
you've done it several times now.
Yeah. Yeah.
Are there commonalities for the things and the actions you took in order to prepare the company for an exit? Like, what are some of the best
Mhm.
practices that you would recommend to other entrepreneurs if they're thinking about selling their company in the future?
Yeah. I mean, really, it's about building great systems. I mean, that's like I wish I had something sexier to say than that, but like when you understand the mechanisms of what makes you money and you can automate them, you can systematize those and
Hmm.
communicate them to your employees. They understand their roles and their priorities. And I really love I don't know if you know the book Four Disciplines of Execution by the Coveys. But that for me, it was became sort of my operating manual for the business. We had a regular rhythm of accountability and said, okay, we understand what we're moving towards. We have the scorecard. We understand what we're moving towards. We all understand why we're moving towards it. We
Hmm.
understand the contribution we're making towards that goal. And then we're meeting for a weekly rhythm of accountability. That for me changed my business. That book was like, I mean, it changed me as an entrepreneur because I understood now I have clarity that I can provide to my team. It's also what allowed me to when I got really sick, I had a traumatic brain injury and it allowed me to disappear. I really had to. Well, until I sold the company. I was not actively in the business for 3 years. And I was able to do that because we had built this system and the company continued to grow and did well. So I don't know if I answered your question directly or not.
No, no,
I
you definitely did. And actually, this is a perfect return to the topic that we parked. I think one of the best things that you did was you proved to a potential buyer that you, the owner, the founder, are no longer integral to the day-to-day operations.
I did that same thing 4 times, and that actually probably is one of the greatest parts of the story, because that's the other thing when you're selling a business, you have to be able to tell a good story about it. Like, and I don't mean like an untrue story. I mean, when you look at numbers, because my first job, my second job as an adult was I ended up being in charge of sales for an ERP company. And so I was working with CFOs and controllers and CEOs all day long and looking at their financials and realized how much of a story you can tell with the financials. Like
Definitely.
two different people can look at, and one person says, "Oh my goodness, this business is crap." Another person looks at it and says, "Oh my gosh, this is a steal. I'd love to buy it." And you have to learn how to tell that story. And so I became really good at looking at the numbers and saying, "What is the story here that's true? But what is the story that's true that I can present to potential buyers that helps them to see the value that I see in it, rather than just presenting numbers and then like hoping they see what I see."
Right, right. Being able to do this repeatedly. Now, do you feel that you took what you learned from one sale and then completely applied it to the second, or did the businesses just evolve in that direction naturally?
I would say for the first one, no. The first one we didn't sell for a lot of money. We didn't even realize we could sell a business. It wasn't even like on our radar. Somebody approached us and said, "Hey, would you sell this business?" And we were like,
Okay.
"Sure." And we named a price and we sold it. So that one doesn't really apply. It just sort of was lucky. But I would say, yeah, the rest of them, it was incremental. It was incremental learning. Like every we learned from the last one, we applied to the next. Yeah, I would say so. I applied the same like process in all those business 40x methodology. Applied that.
Having the successful playbook now, do
Mm,
you ever feel the urge to, or maybe you're in the middle of one right now, to start
mm.
something new and apply that playbook for successful scale and then exit?
Steven, something happened to me in 2020. You referenced in my intro the work with trauma and all that stuff. I had a traumatic brain injury, TBI, and didn't realize how much it had affected me, which was quite significant. I had brain damage. I might still on the right temporal lobe, uh, and I was a wreck. And there's the reason I sold the company because I couldn't lead it effectively. And something happened to me where I sort of lost my enthusiasm for building business just for building business's sake. I love business. I love being an entrepreneur. Don't get me wrong. It's like it's a passion of mine, but I needed something bigger. I needed something that felt more, I don't know, existential than that. And so I had this dream one time of like I was running towards the end of a cliff. It's kind of a, I don't know, it's probably a common dream. I was running towards the end of a cliff, and I heard this voice say, "I'm going to run to the edge of the cliff and trust that I'll know how to fly when I get there." That was the voice that came to me.
Wow.
And it was like, for me, the message was, and this might not sound connected, but in, dream logic was, in the future, I want you to start by building something from a place of purpose, and then trusting that you know how to make money. Like trust that you already have those skills. You've done this. You've built businesses. You sold them. Like trust in those skill set. But instead of starting from the place of where's the opportunity, and then how do I apply meaning, which is how I started my other four businesses. Can I start from a place of purpose, and then how do I apply the business skills to that? So to answer your question, for me, I'm passionate about meaning and purpose. And so everything I do supports that.
Hmm.
I'm not building some massive enterprise right now. I'm just not as motivated or excited about that as I once was. But if it happens as a result of me following my purpose, then that's different. But money is not as motivating for me as it once was. Like, I
No,
just don't.
I get it. You know what? It's interesting to have the skill set to be able to do something and then keep it parked until if and when you need it.
Yeah.
I kind of relate that to cars. Like before, I had a massive, massive passion for cars growing up, and I've always wanted to have something that was really fast. But I
Right.
never really utilized it. I never utilized any of the cars that I've had to their full capability. But I knew I had that power under my foot
Uh
for if and
huh.
when I needed it, it was there.
And
So
that felt good.
I'm going to relate that to how you're feeling right now. Like you can start and grow a business, but
Yeah.
you're currently choosing not to because you're doing something else that's very, very rewarding.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So that's a perfect segue into please share what you're doing now and how people can contact you.
Yeah. Well, so I do a few things. I do some executive coaching because I enjoy working with entrepreneurs. But my focus is not just on helping with the business side or scaling and exiting, and I do help people with that because I have expertise in that. But I realized that so much of the training and stuff out there is about helping people to build their external edge. It's like, how do I gain the skills and the knowledge to grow my business or whatever? And that's all valuable stuff, and I have benefited from it, and I love it. I realized that all of my work working with people with trauma, realizing there's a big overlap to people who experience trauma and entrepreneurs, because often we get into entrepreneurship because we say, I will never let somebody else be in control of my destiny again. So there's a huge overlap between those two things,
Spot on.
right? Realizing that, and the work that I've done with thousands of people on the emotional side of things, because I didn't mention these other businesses. I started trauma therapy clinic in Canada and trauma therapy clinic in the US as well. I realized that I have a passion for and a skill for helping people develop their inner edge, which really means how do we fine tune this emotional engine inside of us so that we can be a high functioning player again? I spent $300,000 on trying to recover from PTSD and didn't. It didn't actually solve the problem for me. I did all the therapies, all the modalities, everything that you can think of. And so I started doing the things that were common sense for me. I had some, weird experiences where something came to me in a dream, that kind of stuff. And I started applying it and realized that that made more of a difference to me than all of the therapy that I had done. And so I started internalizing it. For me, this process that I use is what brought me to the place where I am today, where every single day I experience peace, joy, hope, love every single day. Because emotions are habits. We don't think of them as habits. We think there's something that happens to us. And I've learned that we can practice them, we can develop them so that they become automatic for us. And so I help not just entrepreneurs, but I love help working with entrepreneurs to help them experience a shift in that emotional side of things so that they can be successful in their business, so that they can not burn out like I did.
Amazing.
So I do that. I speak, I told you about the speech that I'm working on right now. I'm planning to do a lot more of that this year because I feel a calling to it. I love it. I write, I have my podcast, and then I do something called rapid emotional rewiring, which is kind of related to the thing for entrepreneurs. But I do that for people who are not entrepreneurs, which help them to build habits of joy, peace, hope, love, whatever it is that they want. Confidence is a big one I help people work on as well.
Amazing. Well,
Yeah.
thank you for doing that. You've done incredible work and you're continuing to do incredible work. I'm sure it's rewarding and you're helping so many. I can just imagine your laundry list of satisfied customers.
Thank you, Stephen. I appreciate that.
What is the best way for people to contact you?
They can reach me at ryanpink.com. They can follow me on Instagram at Mr. Ryan Pink. And yeah, that's probably the best way.
Awesome. Well, I can't thank you enough for taking the time for being on the show. You shared some wonderful stories, some great actionable insights, and some, great recommendations for folks. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Stephen. It was wonderful to be on here with you.
And thank you, everybody, for listening to another episode of the Built to Finish podcast. I hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please do like and subscribe. It helps the show a lot. And we'll see you next time. Thank you again. That's a wrap for this episode of Built to Finish. Thank you for tuning in. For show notes and more details, head over to podcast.stevenpivnik.com. Special thank you to our sponsor, Accresis, offering tailored, high-impact advisory services that help founders get to their finish line with a strategic acquisition or majority investor recapitalization. Catch you next week.